Hey, I wanted to let you know real quick that I'm reopening my Let's Play channel. Come hang out with me all week long over at Friday Night Arcade Plays, where I'll be playing some old and new stuff. Thank you for watching, and hope to see you there at Friday Night Arcade Plays.
Then I had to outsmart another of Vohal's gorillas and steal the show.
Are you Roger Wilco?
Yeah.
Space Quest 4, Roger Wilco and the Time Rippers, picks up shortly after the events of Space Quest 3, with our hapless sanitation engineer hero Roger Wilco relaxing at the bar, regaling strangers with tall tales when a bunch of random dudes show up from the future and throw Roger into a time portal. SQ4 was once again developed primarily by the two guys from Andromeda and released by Sierra Online, and it has all of the screwball parody humor combined with puzzle solving and instant death you've come to expect from the series. If you break down the gameplay of any Space Quest game into its nuts and bolts, it's basically a lot of puzzle solving, picking up or manipulating items you find, combining them with other items, and using them in some way to solve a puzzle to progress the story. Typically, this involves trial and error, screwing up, and dying often. What makes it all work is the quirky humor, awesome over-the-top sci-fi graphics, and there's usually some semblance of a plot, but honestly that never matters much. It's basically like if they made a video game out of Spaceballs, and half the fun is pointing out some of the various references and jokes the programmers hid throughout the game. I'll admit though, I don't quite have the same misty-eyed nostalgia for this entry in the series as I do for, say, Space Quest 3, The Pirates of Pestilon. For one thing, they completely changed the interface. Earlier Space Quest games were text parser adventures, meaning you had to manually type in your own text commands for what you wanted Roger to do. In Space Quest 4, they switched to a more user-friendly point-and-click interface with simplistic icons for walk, speak, examine, smell, and taste. For example, if you want Roger to walk over to a certain spot on the screen, just select the walk icon and click where you want him to go. If you want him to use an item, select the item in your inventory and then click on what you want Roger to use it on. It's all point-and-click now, and you could play through the entire game just using the mouse with virtually no keyboard involvement at all. I say, where's the fun in that? I miss the keyboard stuff, like trying to guess what command I'm supposed to use. And when you take command of your spaceship in Space Quest 3, using the keyboard shortcuts for certain functions of the ship kinda made sitting in front of your PC feel like you were sitting in the cockpit of the aluminum Mallard. Also, some of the commands are just useless. There's no reason to try to taste or smell anything in the game except to have the narrator make fun of you.
It smells just as good as it looks.
I guess for me, the text command aspect of it always took me back to the really old text adventures such as Colossal Cave or Moon Mist. Those were my first PC gaming memories. Then transitioning into the Space Quest series retained the romance of the text adventure, but also added sweet looking graphics to help flesh out the story. I felt like taking away the text commands kinda robs these adventure games of their soul a bit. It turns out the two guys from Andromeda thought the point-and-click interface was dumb too. Scott Murphy discussed the decision to switch to point-and-click in a 2006 interview posted on Adventure Classic Gaming. In that interview, he said, "What I really would have liked to do was keep the original parser interface. I think it made the game so much more deep. Here's a little tidbit about how the parser interface went away and how management worked us. One day when we're literally halfway through SQ4, Mark and I were called into Ken's office. We were asked what we thought about using the dumbass point-and-click interface that they were using in, I guess it was King's Quest V then, and what we thought about putting it in SQ4. We said we wanted to keep the parser. Ken and Bill Davis asked us to talk about it together and then tell them what we wanted to do the next day. After the meeting, Mark and I agreed without hesitation as we walked out Ken's office door, there was absolutely no way we wanted the point and click. The next day when we came in, Bill Davis tracked Mark down and asked him what we decided. Mark told him that we decided to keep the parser, to which Bill instantly replied something to the effect of, "But you can't do that. Ken has already decided that you have to use the point and click." Apparently they figured they had a 50% chance that we would make the decision and wouldn't realize that they'd already made the decision for us. That kind of mentality was another straw on the pile of last ones. Well, there you have it. Another brick in the wall that ultimately led to Scott Murphy and Mark Crow, aka the two guys, deciding to leave Sierra Online and move on to other things. The demise of that relationship could be the subject for an entirely separate video, so we'll leave all that for another time and place. Another abrupt change was the switch from text explanations of the story and dialogue to actual spoken word with voiceovers. On the one hand, they got Gary freaking Owens, aka Space Goes Coast to Coast, to do the voice work for the narrator, and he's just fantastic.
It's you, Roger Wilco, Space Guy. The old Bank of Xenon building held up fairly well. Too bad. They turned Roger down for a loan once. Don't mess with it. You took a little too long. Now it's slime time. As the green slime dissolves the flesh from your bones, you think, hey, this stuff consumes 47 times its weight in acid.
On the other hand, pretty much all the other voiceovers were done by random Sierra employees, and they're... ooh boy.
You go left and split them up. Mr. WILCO, follow me and do exactly as I say.
I'm sorry, I lost my boots and the legs of my pants in a deadly fight with a giant sea slug, which I won in the nick of time with my clever thinking and my, cleverness.
You've got a lot of nerve coming back here, Roger WILCO. After leaving me the way you did, you male scum.
Hey Larry, you want to make an extra $20? Step into this recording booth, will ya? Unfortunately, there's no way to turn these off and just switch back to the text only either. And even Gary Owens gets a little old after a while. You die so much in this game, and there's only so many times that you can hear,
We're glad you could play Space Quest 4. As usual, you've been a real pantload.
and flying around in the time pod isn't nearly as fun as flying in the aluminum mallard. It's just a boring ship that looks like a doorstop. There's also these time code symbols you have to enter to travel around in the ship, and they're nearly impossible to read. On top of that, this game is full of dead ends that could potentially make you have to replay the entire game. For example, did you write down the time code near the beginning when you first get into the time pod? If not, you'll have to restart the game in about 3 hours. Have fun with that. At this point, you're probably thinking, gee, Aaron, was there anything that you actually did like about this game? Okay, well, here's the thing. Even a mediocre Space Quest game is still better than 80% of the other crap out there. There's some fun stuff here, you just have to be willing to put in the time and look past some of the flaws. Most of the humor and over-the-top sci-fi graphics are still fun to enjoy, and the story is an interesting one. This time, instead of planet hopping, Roger is sequel hopping through time and space, and as usual, just about everything is out to kill you. Zombies, killer droids, acid slime, ex-girlfriends, and the sequel police. Roger starts off in Space Quest 12, Vohal's Revenge 2, a post-apocalyptic hellscape. Then you travel to Space Quest 10, which has a bunch of latex-clad female characters that will make you embarrassed to play the game if your wife walks in the room.
Shut up! Your whimpering sickens me. I'll teach you not to run out on me.
Neat, huh? It's hinted at that Roger had a failed relationship with one of these women in the past, or the future, and as the story progresses you find out more about Roger WILCO's future family. At one point you even time travel back to Space Quest 1, complete with EGA graphics. Call me an old fuddy-duddy, but the EGA graphics look way better than the VGA for these types of adventure games. I guess that's just how I remember those games. Those beautiful EGA graphics are seared into my brain forever. Apparently there's a 100% EGA version of Space Quest 4 floating around out there somewhere, but unfortunately all of the official releases I can find only contain the VGA version. I'd be grateful for any leads as to where I can acquire that other version. There's some other fun callbacks too. There's a monolith burger, and if you enter the right time codes, you can even time travel back to Ortega from Space Quest 3. This time you don't have your thermoweave underwear though.
This is Roger. This is Roger on Ortega. Any questions?
You do die a lot in Space Quest 4, probably more so than others in the series. It seems like there are a lot of dead ends. I mentioned before it's possible to get yourself into a jam if you don't write down all the time codes before you time warp out of an area, but also there are a lot of instances that involve precise timing. Like this awkward sequence where you have to steal a time pod without getting shot, or when you have to catch a bit of this acidic slime in a jar. Also when the sequel police are shooting at you at the Skatorama. These adventure games were never really meant to be action games, so these sequences can be pretty frustrating. All I have to say is, save early, save often, and set up multiple save files so you can backtrack a few steps without having to completely start over if needed. Overall, I would definitely say check out Space Quest 4 if you're a fan of the series, but if you've never played Space Quest at all, I wouldn't recommend starting off with this one. It's not bad, but it just doesn't tickle that nostalgic funny bone for me nearly as much as some of the earlier titles, and I particularly miss the text parser. What do you think? Was I too hard on this one? What is your favorite entry in the Space Quest saga? As always, thank you for watching, and see you next time on Friday Night Arcade. Hey, I wanted to let you know that Friday Night Arcade is now accepting financial support through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Friday Night Arcade for more information. Please do not feel obligated to make a financial contribution though, and all content will still be available freely through YouTube. I'm not going to lock content behind a paywall or anything like that, but I have received several requests about accepting support through Patreon or a similar medium, and after some very careful consideration, I have decided to make this an option for those that genuinely want to help out. Honestly though, you can do plenty to support this channel without spending a dime. You're doing it right now, just by watching the videos, subscribing, and engaging in the community discussions below. All of those things help, and this channel has already gone much further than I ever anticipated it would go. Thank you so much for all of your support these past years. Seriously, just thank you. If you want to go a little further to help out without actually spending any money, there's plenty of other things you can do too. First of all, tell a friend. I don't want this wonderful community to be a secret. Next, YouTube and Google are constantly on the verge of damaging the way YouTube channels deliver content to the viewer. To get around this, make sure you click on the little bell icon on the Friday Night Arcade main channel page. Here you can adjust your settings so that you receive the notifications you want from the channel when a video first goes live. And if you really want to make sure you don't miss anything, just follow me on Twitter at FNArcade. You'll get notified anytime I upload a video, and you can also interact directly with me. I'm usually lurking somewhere, and I enjoy engaging with you, the viewer, as well as other content creators. So one last time, I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you so much for all of your support, and hope to see you next time on Friday Night Arcade.